The judge's hands were suddenly motionless. He wasn't looking at her clothes anymore. He was looking at her face, at the lines of fatigue, the exhaustion in her eyes, and the calm fury that only a grieving mother could carry. "Why didn't you have legal counsel?" he asked, quieter now. Clara finally held up the letter. "Because no one wanted to represent me. Not when the state sealed the incident. Not when I was told it was a medical mishap, and I should just grieve quietly." She took a single step forward. "But that's not what mothers do. We don't grieve quietly when our children die in chains." Silence, complete and suffocating. The people who had chuckled earlier were now shrinking into their seats. Clara gently placed the letter on the court clerk's desk. This letter was written by one of the EMTs who found him. He kept a copy of the incident log, and he wrote down what he saw, what the guard said, what the nurse didn't do. He couldn't live with the cover-up. She turned back to the judge. "So no, Your Honor, I didn't wear these clothes to make a point. I wore them because I haven't been home yet. I came straight from a double shift because today was my son's court date, and I couldn't let the system bury his memory the way it buried the truth." You could hear a pin drop. One of the jurors visibly wiped her eye. The judge cleared his throat twice. This isn't part of today's schedule," he muttered. "No," Clara said, "but his name is still printed right there on your docket. Room 2, B, 10:30 a.m., case number 4812-J. You were going to read State versus Eli Morgan. I figured the least I could do was show up, since he can't." The judge looked down, and sure enough, there it was, printed in black ink, a name that didn't belong anymore, a trial for a boy who never made it home. The weight of the court shifted. The tension wasn't about attire anymore. It wasn't about rules or robes or protocol. It was about a mother who showed up not to protest, but to remind a room full of professionals that someone had slipped through their cracks. And it wasn't just a file number, it was her son. The judge slowly leaned back. For once, he didn't have a comeback. No witty rebuke, no stern warning, just silence. And Clara, standing there in her scrubs, still smelling faintly of antiseptic and trauma, was the only person in the room who didn't look out of place anymore. Before the courtroom, before the headlines, before the gavel slammed down and turned judgment into shame, there was just Clara, a nurse, a mother, a fighter with no one in her corner. She raised Eli alone. No fancy house, no white picket fence. "Excuse me?" The judge's voice boomed across the room. "Are you lost, miss?" "This isn't the emergency room." A wave of murmurs rippled across the courtroom. Some heads turned, others smirked. The bailiff took an instinctive step forward, unsure if he should intervene. Clara didn't move. She sat quietly, hands folded over the letter in her lap. "I asked you a question," the judge continued, tone sharpening. "You think this is acceptable courtroom attire?" A woman behind Clara whispered loudly, "Unbelievable." Someone chuckled. The judge leaned in now, scanning her scrubs like they were some kind of insult to his courtroom. "You look like you walked in off a hospital floor. Is this a joke?" Still, Clara said nothing. Her silence wasn't defiance, it was restraint. "This is a court of law," the judge snapped, "not a triage unit. Either explain yourself or kindly remove yourself from these proceedings. You're disrupting the room." Clara slowly stood up. She didn't shout, she didn't cry, she just stood, straight-backed and steady, and looked the judge square in the eye. "I didn't come here for pity," she said softly. "I came because today was supposed to be my son's trial." A hush fell over the courtroom. Even the murmuring stopped. The judge blinked. He adjusted his robe, suddenly less confident. "Your son's trial?" Clara nodded. Her hands gently unfolded the letter in front of her, but she didn't raise it yet. He was 17. The judge stared at her, trying to place the connection, trying to find some legal thread to hold on to. "Your son was, his name was Eli." Her voice cracked slightly, but she held her composure. "He died 3 weeks ago, but no one updated your docket. His name is still on today's trial sheet, as if he's going to walk in that door." Gasps echoed from the back rows. Even the bailiff looked stunned. Clara took a small breath. She wasn't here for sympathy, and she made sure her tone made that clear. He wasn't a criminal. He was accused. He was also diabetic. Type 1. Missed 2 insulin shots while in juvenile holding. He went into ketoacidosis. They said he was fine until he wasn't. Then they moved his body before calling me. Just a second-hand crib, a beat-up Corolla, and dreams that never seemed to come cheap. From the day he was born, Eli was her reason to push through double shifts, missed meals, and late-night textbook reading, all so she could pass her RN exams while balancing formula and overdue bills. And Eli? He was a good kid, smart, quiet, One of those boys who noticed when someone was sitting alone at lunch. The kind who returned a dropped wallet and never asked for thanks. But the world doesn't always reward kindness, especially not when you grow up in the wrong zip code. Eli was 17 when everything changed. He was walking home from school when a patrol car screeched to a halt beside him. Fit the description. Wrong place, wrong time. A few blocks away, a stolen car had sideswiped a police cruiser and fled the scene. The driver was a teenage boy. That's all the cops knew. Eli had the same hoodie, same haircut, no witnesses, no evidence, just assumptions. He didn't resist. He didn't fight. He called his mom from holding and whispered, "Mom, I didn't do anything. I swear." Clara didn't sleep that night. She scrubbed blood off trauma beds by day and fought legal systems by night. Every penny she earned went to phone calls, legal consults, and paperwork. She begged public defenders to treat him like a client, not a case file. But the hearings kept getting delayed, and Eli, he kept getting sicker. Type 1 diabetes isn't dramatic. It's quiet, sneaky, lethal if ignored. Clara called the detention center 4 times to ask if he was getting his insulin. Each time she got the same answer. "He's fine, ma'am. Please don't interfere with protocol." Then came the knock. Not a phone call, not an email, just a uniformed officer with a clipboard and an apology that wasn't his to give. "Your son passed in his sleep. Cardiac arrest. We're very sorry." But Clara knew better. She saw the signs. She saw the timeline. She'd worked in emergency care long enough to recognize a cover-up when it came wrapped in politeness and vague paperwork. They told her to grieve privately, but when she went to collect his things, a clear plastic bag with his clothes, his shoes, and one worn-out paperback, she found it, a folded envelope with her name scribbled across the front, and inside, a letter addressed not to her, but to the judge. "Your Honor, I'm writing this because I know no one will believe me when I say I didn't steal that car. I don't have proof. I just have my name and my mom's trust. She believes me. That's more than I can say for most people. She works more than anyone I know, and she still smiles when she walks in the door. I was gonna beat this. I really thought I would. I'm scared, but I'm not broken. Not yet. If you ever read this, I hope you know I wasn't trying to waste your time. I just wanted to finish school. I just wanted to go home. Eli." Clara sat in her car for hours that day, clutching that letter, not crying, not screaming, just sitting, absorbing the weight of a life that didn't get to finish. She read those words over and over, her nursing scrub still stained from a night shift that ended with her comforting another family's child, unaware she'd lost her own. And then she made a decision, not because she wanted justice, because she couldn't let his voice die with his body. So she circled the court date, the one that never got canceled, and showed up. Not as a nurse, not as a protester, not as a victim, but as a mother, a witness, and a reminder that the boy the system lost had a name, a letter, a truth, and someone willing to speak it, even if no one asked her to. Clara stood still in the center of the courtroom, everything around her blurred, the murmuring audience, the court officers, the echo of the judge's harsh voice still ringing in her ears. But she didn't blink. She didn't move. She slowly reached into the pocket of her faded scrubs and pulled out a single worn letter. The edges were soft now, folded and unfolded too many times. Her fingers trembled, but her eyes stayed fixed on the judge. No more interruptions, no more silence. She opened the letter, the same one she had read dozens of times in her car, under hospital lights, and in the quiet of her small kitchen, where a chair now sat permanently empty. She cleared her throat once, gently, and then, her voice, barely above a whisper, filled the courtroom. "Your Honor, I'm writing this because I know no one will believe me." A hush fell over the room. Even the court reporter paused, eyes wide. Clara's voice was raw, not loud, not angry, but soaked in something deeper. Grief, pride, the kind of love you can't rehearse. "When I say I didn't steal that car," she hesitated, and then kept going, word for word, line by line. As she spoke, something changed. The smug smiles disappeared. The whispered judgments died out. Even the officers who had stood stone-faced before now shifted uncomfortably in their boots. Clara's voice cracked as she read on. "I just have my name and my mom's trust. She believes me. That's more than I can say for most people." Her hands shook, but she didn't stop. She didn't rush through the pain. She walked right into it. "She works more than anyone I know, and she still smiles when she walks in the door." A tear escaped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. She let it fall. Let them see. Let them feel what they'd missed behind their robes and regulations. "I was gonna beat this. I really thought I would. I'm scared, but I'm not broken. Not yet." Now, people in the audience were shifting in their seats, eyes downcast, some brushing at their cheeks. But the judge, he hadn't moved, not even a breath, until Clara reached the final lines. the ones she had memorized by heart. If you ever read this, I hope you know I wasn't trying to waste your time. I just wanted to finish school. I just wanted to go home. Her voice faltered, and then, with trembling fingers, she read the last sentence. Tell the man who caused the crash. I forgive him. It wasn't his fault. We all make mistakes, but we're still people. Please don't forget that. Silence. Dead. Still. Silence. You could have heard the air conditioner hum, the breath catch in someone's throat, the creak of a leather shoe as the judge finally moved. Not much, just his hand, slowly rising to his face, and wiping away a single tear. The same man who had barked orders just minutes earlier, who had snapped, "This isn't the emergency room," who had dismissed Clara before she had said a word, was now silently, visibly, unraveling. No one dared speak, no one dared blink. It was as if Eli himself had walked into the room and placed his heart on the judge's bench. The courtroom had never seen a moment like this, not in its years of sentencing, not in its volumes of legal jargon, not in any gavel strike or objection. Clara folded the letter again, slowly, and whispered, "I didn't come to argue. I just came to finish what he started." The judge looked up, his eyes, red, glassy, locked with hers, and something unspoken passed between them. A mother's pain, a son's forgiveness, and a man, once sure of his own authority, now unsure of everything he thought he knew. He cleared his throat, but the words wouldn't come. Clara took one step back and waited, and then, quietly, the judge stood. It was not theatrical, not grand, but it felt seismic. He turned to the bailiff, his voice now low and uncertain. "Clear the next 2 cases from the docket." Then, to Clara, "Please, stay." Clara nodded once, folded the letter, and finally, exhaled. The room? It didn't clap, it didn't cheer, it simply sat with the weight of truth. And that silence? It spoke louder than any verdict ever could. The judge didn't speak immediately. He stood still, his face a quiet battlefield of guilt and realization. Then slowly, with shaking hands, he removed his glasses, the same glasses he'd peered over when he first barked at Clara, the same ones he'd used to look down at her before knowing who she really was. His voice, when it finally came, was nothing like before. No booming courtroom command, no hardened tone of authority, just a man, stripped of pride. "Ms. Reynolds," Clara looked up, "I owe you an apology." You could hear someone gasp quietly in the gallery. Even the court reporter looked up from her keys. "I judged you based on your clothes, your appearance. I assumed you were disrespecting this courtroom. But the truth is," he paused, swallowing, "you walked in carrying more honor than anyone else in this building." Clara didn't speak. She couldn't. Her throat was tight, her hands still gripping the letter. The judge stepped down from the bench, slowly, as if every step weighed more than it should. "I can't bring your son back. I can't take back what I said. But please know, your presence today, it reminded me why this bench matters, why truth matters." He gestured gently toward the clerk. "This court is dismissed." A moment passed, and then, one by one, people stood, not for the judge, for her. There was no gavel slam, no traditional closing words, just chairs sliding back, people rising to their feet, a slow ripple of applause that began with one elderly woman in the back and then echoed forward like a wave. Clara stood motionless in the center, her eyes wet, her body exhausted, and her heart finally exhaling. Someone in the back, a young man with a press badge, leaned to the person beside him and whispered, "She didn't just show up, she changed this courtroom forever." Clara turned to leave, her steps slow, every muscle aching from the long ER shift she'd worked just hours before. But now, the exhaustion sat differently on her shoulders. It wasn't defeat, it was pride, the kind that doesn't need medals or announcements, the kind that walks quietly through fire and makes it outstanding. She stepped out of the courthouse doors into the blinding sunlight, and for the first time in what felt like weeks, she smiled. Not the kind she forced for patience, not the polite nod she gave at hospital elevators, a real one. Her son's letter clutched in her hand, her dignity intact, her silence finally heard. She walked down the steps, past cameras and reporters, past strangers who no longer saw just a nurse in scrubs, but a mother whose strength had just taught a courtroom what justice truly looked like. And as she reached the final step, the wind picked up gently, brushing against her face like a whisper, his whisper. "Tell the man who caused the crash, I forgive him. We're still people. Please don't forget that." She closed her eyes for just a second, letting his words echo, not in sorrow, in legacy. He had spoken, through her, and now the world had finally listened. The courtroom is quiet now, but something lingers in the air, not the memory of a scolding judge, but the echo of a mother's strength. Sometimes it takes just one voice, trembling but true, to shift an entire room. Clara didn't ask for sympathy. She didn't beg for mercy. She stood with grief on her shoulders and grace in her hands. And in that silence, she didn't just defend her clothing, she defended human dignity. Respect was never stitched into the fabric of a uniform. It lives in sacrifice, in loss, in people who walk into places they don't belong just to do what's right. And maybe this wasn't just a courtroom. Maybe it was a mirror, showing us how quick we are to judge and how rare it is to listen. So if this story moved you, don't scroll past. Honor the Claras of this world, the quiet fighters, the ones who carry the weight and still show up. Drop a heart in the comments if you've ever met someone like her. Tag someone brave. Share this video with one person who believes in second chances, because sometimes one moment of courage is all it takes to silence a room and speak to the world.